So this is the second part of lecture 2 for 321 and 421 software project management at Fairfield University. I'm going to give a top level overview of the traditional project management approach to the 5 process areas, right? So I've already talked through the personal software process. So the 5 project management process areas are scoping, where we develop and gain approval of a general statement of the goal and business value of the project. That should be lightweight, it should be pretty quick, provided we have the data. We may need to go out and get the data on the market or pricing or what have you, but it should be pretty quick to do. The next step is the planning process group. So we identify the work to be done and estimate the time, cost and resource requirements. We gain approval for that. So the output of the scoping process, the first one, is our project overview statement, our POS. The output of the planning process will be a requirements breakdown structure, a requirements document, software requirement specification, whatever you want to call it, and a project plan. And we need to get approval for that so we can continue to the launching. The launching process is to recruit the team and establish the rules for operating the team, and how the team interacts with its environment, with its project landscape. Once we've launched, then we're into executing, or otherwise called monitoring and controlling. We need to be able to respond to change requests, resolve problems, and maintain and report project progress. Once we think we're done, we need to assure that we have gained the client's assent that we've finished, and we need to deliver the deliverables, right? Install them, send them, whatever the deliverables require. They need to get to their final destination. So they're the 5 process groups, and let's have a quick look at how to do each of them for a traditional project management project. So how to scope a project. And so you'll see this statement lots of times: tools, templates and processes to scope. The main thing with scoping is you've got to manage client expectations, and you have to elicit what they're expecting and be able to say what you're doing and why you're doing it, and eventually perhaps figure out that you can't do it. You can start doing the requirements breakdown structure now, right? That's going to be more detailed requirements than you need to proceed to the planning phase, but you will need something reasonably detailed before you get to the planning phase. The main approval coming out of scoping is going to be your project overview statement. Also here you're going to classify the project as the solution known or unknown, is the goal known or unknown, and then you can choose what your project management life cycle will be. Right, so here's some of the things that you need to know. The conditions of satisfaction. You need to have a project scoping that should be meeting. You need to do requirements elicitation. You need to do some brainstorming if there are unknown problems or problems that you don't know the solution to. It's helpful to have group sessions where a facilitator tries to elicit more information, either requirements or background information about the topic. You probably want to interview people about the topic. You may need to throw together some quick prototypes to see if that meets what what your understanding of the customer requirements are. Maybe do requirement workshops, and you need to have a project overview statement. And that's project overview statement. It's a high level, hopefully one-page statement of what the project is, what its business value is, and maybe what risks, what other things, but it's a one-pager. That project overview statement is approved so that you can move to planning the project. So planning a project. Again, here's his tools, templates, and processes. Chapter 7 is about the importance of planning. We're going to take our requirements breakdown structure, which maybe hasn't been finished by the time you've finished scoping, but it should be pretty close to finished. The first thing you do before you do the planning is to make sure your RBS is finished. Because your work breakdown structure is built upon your requirements breakdown structure, your SRS. You need to estimate task duration, you need to estimate resource requirements, you need to estimate cost, you need to put together a network diagram. So the Gantt chart that Dr. John Whitty talked about in the initial video I asked you to watch, that's going to be where you get your network diagram from. Then you need to write a project proposal. This is going to be a more detailed fleshing out of the project overview statement, and it's that project proposal that's going to give you permission to proceed to launching the project. So launching the project, you need to get the project team, you need to have a kickoff meeting, establishing the rules, you need to manage scope changes, team communication, you need to make sure you assign their appropriate resources to each of the work packages in the work breakdown structure. If people bite off more than they can chew, then you may need to do some resource leveling so that people aren't booked for 500% of the time. Before you launch, you need to finalize the project schedule. Maybe something that you need to do has changed the scope or changed the duration. You need to update the project schedule. And so here's some of the tools and templates, recruiting the project team. The rules about problem solving, decision making, conflict resolution, consensus building, brainstorming, and team meetings need to be in place. You need to have a scope change management process, because otherwise the C-suite will keep throwing changes at you and you will never finish. You need to have a plan about how you're going to manage communications. You need to put together the work packages, you need to assign people to those work packages, and you finalize the project schedule. Okay, so now we're executing. We're monitoring and controlling. Now we establish our progress reporting system. We may want to use graphical tools to do that. We want to manage the scope bank. We have to have and maintain an issues log and make sure we deal with all the issues that arise before we finish. We have to have status meetings with our stakeholders to let everybody know what's happening. And they may be weekly, they may be daily, they may be monthly, depends on the size and scope of the project. If there's a problem, we need to have a way of escalating that to the appropriate people to fix the problem. If a developer finds a problem that the CEO needs to be involved with, we need to have a managed process to figure out how that developer tells the CEO. And it's going to be different depending on the organization you're working within. Hopefully everything goes well and we get to the end of the project, and now we need to just get approval to close the project. And that's probably an internal thing, but if we're working closely with our client, then they probably have to give you the okay that we're ready to take delivery of the deliverables. So here's, they're a bit small, aren't they? Here's a few reports: current period, cumulative, exceptions, stoplight, variance. We might need Gantt charts, burn charts, milestone trend charts, earned value analysis. We will be doing an earned value analysis on our example projects, the PDQ project. So we'll see how that goes. And we need to talk about project status meetings and problem escalation strategies. Okay, so we get to the end and now we're ready to close. We need to have client acceptance procedures. We need to get the client to accept that those procedures say that we're done. We need to install the project deliverables. We need to finish up documenting the project. We need to do a post-mortem or post-implementation audit. We write the final project. And what a lot of people forget is once the project is done, you should celebrate the fact that it's done. Maybe just have a team lunch or team donuts or whatever the thing is, but make sure you celebrate finishing the project. So these are some of the templates you might need: an acceptance test procedure, implementation strategies, what the documentation is, how the audit is conducted, and what needs to go into the final report. Okay, so that's a high-level view of how you would go through a traditional project management project. Starting next week, we'll go through each of those chapters in more detail, and we'll see how that pans out.